I never imagined a single moment of careless laughter could change the course of my entire life. My name is Sophia and I'm 31 years old. A year ago I thought I had it all, a loving partner, a growing family and what I believed was stability. But life, as I've learned the hard way, has a way of twisting even the smallest choices into irreversible consequences. It all started on a Sunday afternoon, the kind of day that felt light, easy, and ordinary. My boyfriend, Mark, and I were decorating the nursery for our first child. He had always been practical, patient, the calm to my chaos, and I loved that about him. We laughed and argued over the color of the crib, the arrangement of toys, even over which stuffed animals were essential. In that moment, I thought about how lucky I was to have him, the kind of man who never raised his voice, who always went along with my whims, who made me feel like the world had paused just for us. I never thought that weekend would mark the beginning of the end. A few days later, a distant relative came to visit, and in the middle of casual conversation, someone made an offhand joke about paternity and trust. I laughed. Too easily, too carelessly. "Oh, Mark? He wouldn't even notice if the baby wasn't his?" I said, smirking, thinking it was harmless. Everyone laughed along, not knowing, or caring, that my words were a spark in a room full of gasoline. I didn't realize that Mark, who had just walked in to grab something from the kitchen, heard every word. For a split second I thought he'd chuckle along, maybe tease me back like we always did. But the look in his eyes froze me. There was no anger, no dramatic outburst. There was just this quiet disappointment. The kind that seeps into your bones and doesn't let go. That night he barely spoke. He nodded at dinner, smiled faintly, but I could feel the invisible wall building between us. I laughed again, trying to brush it off. "Relax, it was a joke," I said, leaning into the irony, mocking the tension that I thought didn't exist. But Mark's silence was louder than any words he could have said. By the time the evening ended, he didn't walk me to the door, didn't hug me, didn't even kiss me goodnight. He left the apartment quietly, leaving me standing in the hallway wondering why my usual charm wasn't enough to bring him back. The following morning, I expected the familiar warmth, the normal routine to resume. I poured coffee, tried to smile, made idle small talk about breakfast and the weather, but every attempt was met with monosyllabic answers, curt nods, and eyes that refused to meet mine. Finally, I broke the silence. "Mark, are you seriously upset about that joke?" "I didn't mean it." He looked at me, calm, collected, too calm. "It's not the joke," he said. "It's everything it represents. All the times I've trusted you, all the moments I've believed in us, and all the times you've treated me like I was invisible. That joke was the last straw." I felt my stomach twist. Invisible? That couldn't be right. I had loved him, cared for him, sacrificed so much. How could a single offhand comment undo all that? But his eyes told me the truth. I had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Texts went unanswered. Calls were ignored. I started to feel the creeping reality that what I had always assumed, his patience, his unwavering love, was conditional, fragile, and I had broken it without even realizing. I replayed the party over and over in my head, seeing the room differently now, hearing the laughter as a jury passing judgment. I had laughed, yes, but not at a joke. I had laughed at him. Then came the moment that shattered what was left. A few weeks later, I learned from a mutual friend that Mark had started seeing someone else. I was alone, pregnant, and the man I had once trusted with everything had moved on quietly, confidently, without confrontation. He hadn't screamed, hadn't blamed me, hadn't tried to justify himself. He had simply left me behind. And for the first time, I understood the true weight of my actions. I had been careless with someone who didn't deserve carelessness. I had assumed love was unbreakable, and I was wrong. I sat in the nursery one night, the baby's crib half assembled, the walls painted in soft pastels that now seemed like a cruel reminder of what I had lost. I touched the tiny socks, the little blankets, imagining the life that Mark and I would never have. And I realized that the laughter, the joke, wasn't funny at all. It was a mirror reflecting my own selfishness, my thoughtless confidence, my failure to respect the man who had given me everything. And now I was left with the consequences. Alone, preparing for motherhood without the partner I had taken for granted, forced to face the quiet truth. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes trust, respect, and restraint matter more than feelings, more than laughter, more than any excuse you can offer. And sometimes the person you thought would always be there walks away quietly, leaving you with nothing but regret and a life you never fully appreciated until it was gone.